Yeah, a bunch of your guys' mics are on. That's okay though. All right, so everybody can hopefully see my, I was good with music. I was happy with music. We're gonna start now though. Sorry again if you're just getting here. Totally had an issue with Zoom today. That was really weird. It wouldn't let me log into my own meeting, so I had to start a new meeting. So glad that you guys all made it in. Is Lot making masks for everybody? That's pretty cool. I ordered my mask through the state. We'll see how long it takes to get here. So today, let me basically explain what today is. So today, instead of really going over periods 1 and 2, we're mostly going to talk about, the masks for his mask project. Got it. Basically, we're going to go over DBQ stuff today, and as well as what next week and stuff is going to end up looking like. So hopefully all of you guys got this, which of course is not going to come up, but the survey that I sent out, if you guys could please do me a huge favor, and I'll send it out in the chat right now if you wanted to be able to do it while we're doing this. But please do me a huge favor and fill this out, because I want to make my lecture schedule around your guys' exam schedule. So for example, right now, everyone in waiting room, my bad. Because right now it looks like some of the days don't have anything, some of them do. So please fill this out if you can. If you're not taking the exam or any AP exams, that's fine. But please just put in what other AP exams that you're taking and things like that. And that'll help me out a huge ton. But this will help me be able to create my lecture schedule for the week of AP exams, because I don't want to overlap all of you guys in different things like that. So before we get started, I want to show you guys a couple of things before we move on to DBQs and stuff like that. So if you were curious about periods 1 and 2, so periods 1 and 2, which is everything before basically causes of the American Revolution, is not required on the AP exam and will not be asked. So anything you don't have to worry about, for example, a Native Americans pre-1492 DBQ. You don't have to worry about a colonization of America DBQ. They can be used as contextualization. So for example, let's say that the essay topic is on the Second Great Awakening and you want to use the First Great Awakening as contextualization, you can. These are the two essay topics that they specifically mentioned. So European encounters in the Americas, as well as the context. So basically, why did people colonize North America? Jacksonian democracy is period 4. So Jacksonian democracy is period 4, which is 1800 to 1848. Here are the period 3 essays, which I did not have on the PowerPoint last class, so my apologies. So basically, what led to Americans winning the war? So notice that this is not a causes of the American Revolution. It is basically, why did we win the war? How different forms of government developed. I personally feel like this is the most likely to be the question out of all 3 of these questions. And then finally, how and why competition intensified conflicts among peoples and nations. This is a really weird question, and I'm not a huge fan of it. Can I please, yeah, I guess I could share my screen with you guys. I guess that would make more sense. I thought I was sharing it. My bad. There you go. Okay. So now that you can see my screen. So basically this second one, this how different forms of government developed and changed as a result, I personally think that's the most likely essay topic if it were to be. This last one is very confusing to me, and I don't really know what they're asking here. So I'm going to read over your guys' summaries of that CB lecture and kind of go from there, because it's kind of a really weird question. I really, really don't think, though, it would be period 1, because period 1, or period 3, excuse me, causes of the American Revolution was the DBQ 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. So I really don't think it's going to be one of these topics, but maybe if you get the alternate exam or something like that, or the international exam, who the heck knows what's going to happen. So one really quick thing about review assignments, don't forget that the review assignments are due tomorrow. If you were to prioritize, so let's pretend that you've completely forgotten and have done nothing on those review assignments. If you were to turn in anything late, it would be the CB lecture reviews. And I'm not saying to turn it in late, but what I'm saying is if you're trying to prioritize, that's my last priority, because the other 3 assignments are going to be for the whole class. that assignment is just for you. So if you want to be late on your own knowledge, then that's fine. That's on you. But if you're going to choose 3 assignments to turn in on time, it would be the essay 1-pager, the topic 1-pager, and the theme review timelines. And we have about 80 submissions for each of those, so I'm feeling pretty confident about it. But again, if we have missing gaps, that is because you guys did not do the work, not because Miss Ray did not do the work. But I have been taking notes of everybody who's been participating and being in these lectures every day. And there's only like 5 people in lectures every day that are not doing any work. So I'm not too worried about you guys, but share the wealth and tell your other students to start doing their work. One thing too, if you, and I messaged this out yesterday, I think, if you would like to do extra credit on the CB reviews, I'm going to go ahead and accept those through. I'm going to accept those through next week. And so you can just do there's a button that says resubmit assignment. You can just press that button and submit your extra credits. That does not mean that your other ones would be marked or would not be marked late if you chose to turn everything in next Friday. So again, if you're wanting to wait to do some of the extra credit, I'm going to accept it through next week because I'd rather you do as many of those lecture reviews as possible for that as well. And then I also had somebody ask me a question of the Lynn-Manuel Miranda, if they could do a review one or an extra credit one on that video. If you watch that one today, I'll go ahead and accept that as well as another extra credit one, even though it doesn't necessarily have to do a lot with our topic. But if you would like to do that, you can as well. Any questions about review stuff or anything like that? Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk DBQ. Now, we still have 30 people who have not done the period 8 and 9 test. And we're going to go over that essay right now. And if you're one of those people who did not do it, I have been really lenient with late work and stuff like that, but I'm going to definitely deduct it because you've had 2 weeks. And at this point, I need to help everybody, not you. And so what that means is that you're going to get a massive deduction since I'm going over this now. Simply because it would be unfair for me to make everybody wait because of you. So my goal is to get all the DBQs graded either by tonight or early tomorrow. I'm through 70 of them right now. Overall, fantastic job. The average student got a 5 or a 6, which I'm going to assume is going to be passing the AP exam based on what I've seen. You'll notice when I go through this that there are certain things that almost everybody is doing. And as soon as you do that, you will bump up 2 points to a 7 if you got a 5. If you got 4 or lower, that's concerning because, again, I would say 95% of people got a 5 or higher on this one, including a couple of perfect 10s. So please make sure that if you got lower than a 4, I may have put on there, see me, talk to me, email me, or a frowny face. And if you got any of those, please contact me because we really need to work on it. In my opinion, almost everybody who got a super low score, as in 3 or less, a lot of it, I just don't know if you ever studied. And the reason I say that is, especially some of the people who got 1s, I had one student who got a 1 out of 10, and they spent 10 minutes on the DBQ. That's just not okay. And a lot of the people who got a lower score, I went and looked, and you were constantly Googling, looking on other pages, different things like that. It all alerts me when you do that. So consistently what I noticed is the people who knew stuff and were prepared for it got a good score. Honestly, Alan, you have a later last name, so yours are not. But everybody, I think that I ended somewhere around the M's or something like that. But again, most people, dang it. Most people yeah, I know. It's because I go to admit somebody and it mutes me instead. That's my bad. But anyways, please talk to me. A lot of you guys too, who got lower scores, you did a huge mistake, which I will show you the most common mistake that people made that resulted in a lower score, and it will easily bump up. So you can retake it. However, it is majorly concerning at this point because we are 2 weeks away from right now. 2 weeks from now, you'll be taking the AP exam. And some of you are just making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So again, if you got anything less than a 5, please contact me because I believe personally that anything less than a 5 may not be passing the AP exam. I think a 4 or higher is the most likely passing score, but there's no reason you would want a 4. I think a 4.5 is probably a 3 based on what I'm seeing from a lot of other teachers. But in my class, it's a 5 because, again, we are not average at Skyline. If I were to get the national average at Skyline, I wouldn't be teaching A-Push because we're a much higher breed. So anyways, so I will go through this and explain the most common issues that I saw. This is just to explain what you're getting the scores on. So remember, 1 point for HC, 1 point for thesis. If you talk about 2 documents, you get 1 point. If you explain 2 documents, so really show me why is it a cause, that's 1 point. If you really show me 4 docs, that's another point. And then 2 hips and 2 outside evidences and complexity. I would say the number one issue, and Mary, yeah, that's kind of up to you what you want to do, if you want to listen or not. At this point, I'm already docking everybody who has it in late, so it doesn't really matter as a general whole. At this point, it's been 2 weeks, so it's kind of up to you guys of what you want to do. If you want to learn or not, it's already going to be docked, so it doesn't really matter at this point. So anyways, the number one issue that I saw, though, is I noticed that almost everybody forgot to do something, whether it be forgetting to include certain documents, whether it be forgetting to HIP or forgetting to do outside evidence. So what that tells me is you guys need like a little checkoff sheet. So I will make you a little checkoff sheet so that you can check off, yes, I've done 2 HIPs. Yes, I've done 2 outside evidences, because the vast majority of people just forgot to do things. And I think that that's the number one issue. So I'll make a little checkoff sheet so that you can have it on the AP exam, so that you can be able to go through it and different things like that. Okay. In timing, we will talk about timing too as we continue to go on. I will show you what we're going to do for timing in just a little bit. Your notebooks are going to allow you to have a quick check, or basically a quick cheat sheet for all of your AP exam. So this will be the opportunity to be able to basically quickly go to something, quickly understand it, and different things like that. And by the way, in terms of highlighting, I wasn't expecting you to highlight that, but that does actually bring up something interesting. With the way that the AP exam is this year, you could technically highlight similar to how we've highlighted. I personally would absolutely not do all the highlights. I would not highlight HIP. I would not highlight outside evidence. If it were me, where you have your doc reference, if you wanted to highlight, I would solely highlight doc 1, doc 4, so that somebody who's reading knows exactly where to find your different documents in your essay. And I feel like that's pretty quick, that you could do that in about 15 seconds, 30 seconds, but you definitely don't have to highlight. A lot of you did highlight on this DBQ essay, but you're definitely not required to. And the vast majority of people will not, but it will keep your formatting if you do choose to highlight. Okay. All right. So in terms of the DBQ, this is what your DBQ look like. It is 45 minutes, but it's technically 50, but we will talk about that later. And we will talk about how we will prep you for that shorter time period. Okay. All right. So let's talk about your essay topic. So your essay topic, in my opinion, was relatively easy. Evaluate the extent to which political ideologies led to American foreign policy decisions from 45 to 1975. Really, this is what caused us to go other places during the Cold War. That's really what this is talking about here. Okay. So Doc 1 should have been ID'd as the Truman policy. A lot of you guys, interestingly enough, really focused on Greece and Turkey, and a lot of you really talked about it, which I found to be interesting, because if you knew Greece and Turkey, that was actually the Eisenhower Doctrine. So while this specific speech, he's talking about just the snippet of Greece and Turkey, this was actually made specifically to trip people up and to say that it was the Eisenhower Doctrine instead of the Truman Doctrine. So a lot of you talked about the Eisenhower Doctrine, but you can see it's Truman. Eisenhower isn't the president yet. Okay. Doc 2 was the number one most missed document. Almost everybody said this was NATO or the UN. That was not correct. NATO or UN was a misanalyzing of this document. This document is actually the Marshall Plan. So the Marshall Plan was this document, and you could have seen that by whatever the weather, we only reach welfare together, economic cooperation administration. This was Marshall Plan. I would say about 50% of people got it right. 50% of people talked about the UN or NATO. Here's the good news about the rubric. If you talked about NATO or the UN, you got an outside evidence point. So even if you did not get this document, you probably got an outside evidence point instead. So that is the benefit of that, of the way that the rubric is now written. So that's the good news. The bad news is the number one problem I saw with the vast majority of students, I would say 90%, did not use all 5 documents. And the problem is, if you only use 4 or even worse, 3, what happens is that the minute you miss one document, you've now dropped below. So I would say about 70% of students only use 4 docs, got doc 2 wrong, and you have immediately lessened your ability to be able to get it. Okay, so make sure you're using all 5 documents. And again, we will talk about timing in just a little bit. You should use all 5 docs somewhere in your essay, but preferably the vast majority of them in your causes. But you should always mention all 5 documents no matter what. Okay, this was Korea. Almost everybody got Korea right. This was the Bay of Pigs invasion, which almost everybody who did not do all 5 documents left Doc 4 out. Again, this was an easy one. Bay of Pigs invasion. It literally says Bay of Pigs. So this was an easier document, but most people just chose not to talk about it. Okay. Oh, I guess it does say bag of pigs. I never noticed that. Anyways. Okay. Anyways, and then Doc 5 was Vietnam, which a lot of people also left out Doc 5, which I think is a time issue. I don't think it's because you didn't know what it was, because it literally says Vietnam. But I think that the problem is most of you guys probably ran out of time. I noticed a lot of people were going Doc 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So by the time you hit Doc 5, you were out. Doc 4 was Bay of Pigs invasion, was Doc number 5. Okay. So that is your, that's the IDs. Okay. And I will create for you a pre-write sheet. Colin, did you miss our overview of everything? We went over all the different documents, but Doc 3 was Korea. So, but yeah, we've gone over all those. Okay. So anyways, let's talk about specific issues that I saw throughout the various issues. So if you get these wrong, by the way, this is also available online for me to and again, you've read all this, okay? So most of your guys' comment will look something like this, okay? So Doc ID, these are all the ones that you correctly talked about in general. In the explain category, you can see that person A did not get any points. And I've already received emails that said, Miss Ray, why didn't you put anything in the explain? That means you did not get the points. So every number that you get up here, so this person got docs 1, 2, and 5 in the ID, 0 explains, they got HIP on one document, and they talked about the UN, which is more than likely because they misanalyzed the document. I can't remember for this person. Then you will see the rubric right here. So this is all the points they either gave you or didn't. And for most people who got a lower score, I gave you multiple reasons of why. So you notice this person, unfortunately, did not use docs 3 and 4, which automatically makes it lower for them to be able to get the points. So if you have questions such as, but I had 9 hips in here, why didn't I get any points? Let me know and I will explain it. I'm at the point where I want you to put a little bit more effort in and talk to me rather than expecting me to reach out to you and tell you what's going on. So while I gave a whole bunch of different things, make sure that you correctly, or you reach out to me if you have questions, okay? So especially if you think you're getting hips and you're not, let me know and I will reanalyze and relook and help explain to you why it was a problem. So most common issues on the DBQ, and I think that a lot of this is just stuff I'm seeing still over and over again. So contextualization, the most common issue that I saw was did not connect it to the theme, whether it be to have a connecting sentence or whether it be you just did not connect it at all. So I had a whole bunch of people. The most common reason why, or the most common HC that people did was World War II. So talking about how after World War II, we moved from isolationist to interventionist, that was the most common connection that I saw. Well, a lot of people just said prior to 1945, America fought in World War II. This was to defeat the Axis powers in Europe and in Asia. The extent to which, and then they started their thesis. Well, I have no idea what World War II has anything to do with the Cold War. So you need to make sure that you connect it. Every single time you must connect it. Use that connecting sentence. A lot of people did a very broad idea. So I had a lot of people that wrote things like, prior to 1945, America was fighting a bunch of wars. They started to become more involved in worldwide powers. Again, that's not really specific. That's extremely broad. Use terms. Make sure at least one term is in your HC no matter what. And then this was very common. A lot of people did the HC far beyond the essay prompt. So the essay prompt in this case begins in 1945. And a lot of people did World War I. A lot. In fact, I had quite a few that did the Zimmerman note. A lot of you guys didn't connect it. So a lot of you guys said prior to 1945, the Zimmerman note caused World War I, and then all of a sudden you jumped into your essay topic. You could technically do World War I. Personally, I would do prior to 1945, America defeated the Central Powers in World War I. This began an era of isolationism. However, following World War II, America became more interventionist. Something like that, you have to connect it. A lot of people also went way farther. We have people doing American Revolution, saying America's American spirit caused us to have the Cold War. Please make sure that you try to be as close to the front of the time period as possible. You should not be going substantially before your time period. Okay, any questions about context? Okay. All right, thesis. Almost everybody got their thesis. It was very, very rare. However, the most common issue that I saw was using language of the question. Please make sure you always use language of the question. A lot of your theses were extremely weak because you did not use language of the question. So remember, if it says in there, what were or how did political ideologies lead to America being involved in foreign affairs? Use that language in your thesis. All right, now the big ones. So define and explain. Again, the number one issue is not everybody used all 5 documents. The average on the exam was only 3 out of 5 documents, which actually means that if you use 3 documents, you are automatically reduced to a maximum of 9 points. Automatically. You have no ability to get higher than a 9, and that's not even including all the other deductions you might receive. Now, I'm hearing a lot of it's a timing issue. The more you practice, I truly believe the more you'll feel confident in your ability to do this in the amount of time that you end up having. So you have 45 minutes to write and what is called a 5-minute upload period. So what that means is most of you are probably going to take 46, 47 minutes to fully write your essay. The most important thing, if you're going to drop anything, is unicorn point. So if you're sitting there like, oh shoot, I have to do effects, drop it. Okay, the priority is to get all 5 documents in there at once. I did notice consistently a lot of people were bumping off the pages in the first 10 minutes, so a lot of people appear to be Googling things. That's part of the reason we do not want to Google things. I think a lot of it too is pre-write, reading the documents. That all should be a maximum of about 10 minutes, and you should be leaving about 35 minutes or so, 30 to 35 minutes to actually be able to write. So I think that those were consistently some of the biggest issues. Most people did not mention docs 1, 2, and 4. Most popularly, doc 4 was almost all left out if you did not do 5. Always do 5 though, because remember, as soon as you miss 1, you drop down points. Remember to use very specific terms. So a lot of you did very broad terms and then said this can be seen in whatever. So for example, I saw a whole bunch of people talk about economic cooperation, probably because it said economic cooperation on it, but you never talked about the Marshall Plan. Or a bunch of you guys said stopping communism, and then you said, and this is why we went into the Korean War, and that's it. So make sure that you fully explain your terms and use a term for every document. Again, the vast majority of people misanalyzed Doc 2. which is exactly why it's in there. It's supposed to trip you up, which is exactly why you do all 5 documents. A lot of some people did categories that made no sense. So I say a lot of people did imperialism. This is not the imperialism era. So make sure you avoid that argument. And then a lot of you, I shouldn't say a lot of you, a minority of you put the majority of your documents in your effects. Make sure it's in your main argument instead. Okay. HIP analysis, number 1 issue. You just didn't do it. I'd say only about 50% of people actually attempted to do a HIP analysis. Remember, HIP analysis right now is worth 2 of 10 points. That's 1/5 of your score is HIP analysis and outside evidence. So make sure that you include it. Minimum of 2 sentences. A lot of people only did 1 sentence for HIP. I can't accept it if it's only 1 sentence. Make sure that you are only doing 1 sentence, or instead of doing 1 sentence per letter, do 2 sentences per single letter. We had about 10 people that did all 4 letters, 1 sentence each. The purpose of, the point of view of, make sure you do 1 letter, 2 sentences each. Is there a way to make the essay a little shorter or more concise? I would say 5 sentences or less per and that includes introductory as well as this can be seen is. That is usually how much a good essay has, is 5 sentences plus HIP plus outside evidence. I noticed that that's what most people did. I really think that part of the issue as well might be you guys didn't learn typing like I did. Like, I spent probably 3 years of my middle school and elementary school in typing class. So I type 160 words a minute. So for me, I would type a longer essay in this format compared to a written essay because I type very well. I think part of the issue is also this is a first draft essay. And so what that means is you should not be backspacing. You should not be re-editing. You should not be typing and then rereading it. It should almost just be a flow as if you were writing and not an editing. I think a lot of people are spending time making sure it sounds good, typing up a paragraph and then rereading that paragraph. If it were me, I would not reread anything unless I have time to do it. I would just continue to write. Don't focus on what I've already written and get the whole thing written and then go back and edit. I think that that's a really big problem because, again, a lot of people right now are running out of time, and I gave you an extra 15 minutes or 10 minutes. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Make sure you use language of the question with HIP. We had a lot of people that put things like, this document discusses the dichotomy and all these different things, or this document goes more into whatever. Use the purpose of, the intended audience of, whatever it could be. Be very specific so I know you're hipping, because without highlights, it's very hard for me to see if you're not being specific. Yeah, and it might be because you wrote your essay, some results, and copied and pasted it, but that is like what it'll be on the AP exam. So the good news is that on the AP exam, which is what we're going to start doing next week in your final DBQ, is it'll just be a giant form and you just copy and paste it or do whatever you're going to be. The rewrite of this essay, well, the rewrite of this essay would just be the correct length. So it's really hard for me to be able to judge what you mean by rewrite because it's going to be whatever you need to fix on this essay. How long should, time-wise? Like, how long should it take you to do pre-write? Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I would spend 10 minutes or less pre-writing, and that should include a pre-write, reading your essay or reading the documents, and getting ready to go. And I'm going to create a pre-write sheet for you that'll hopefully be really quick where you can just write down a couple of things and be ready to go. Again, they took away the writing period, which I think was a horrible idea. And now they don't even have a pre-write section. And I think a lot of people are going to run out of time. I'm very, very nervous about it. And then they also announced the other day, update, if you upload a document and you don't hit submit, it will not save your document. So if you upload like with 5 minutes left and then you keep editing, it will not accept it if you don't hit submit. So I'm very concerned about time, but my hope is next week when we do the practice DBQs that are timed correctly, that it'll help get you used to the correct format. They did say that you can still go to 5 and not get all the points on the rubric, is specifically what they said. And then please remember on intended audience, never ever do The intended audience are people who read newspapers. The intended audience are people who read this book. Please don't ever do that. They will laugh at you. Okay? And it's very frustrating when I see that. Outside evidence. Oops. Okay. Again, outside evidence, a lot of people just didn't do it. So make sure that you're doing outside evidence. All outside evidence must be in the time period. I've noticed this really weird trend, and I obviously did not explain it well enough. A lot of people are saying a thing that is similar to this is the Second Great Awakening. A thing that is similar to this is America in the Red Scare, our first Red Scare in the 1920s. That is actually what you call synthesis. That is not outside evidence. Please don't do that. Outside evidence should be something in the time period related to the essay, but not in the documents. So for example, we had a lot of people that did the Cuban Missile Crisis. An example that is similar to this is the Cuban Missile Crisis. We had a lot of people do space race. Another example of foreign policy decisions was when America went into the space race. A lot of people did arms race. It cannot be something so far out of the time period. Make sure it's in the time period of the essay. It also cannot be something in the documents. The most common outside evidence that I saw was people talking about the USSR. So USSR is in all of those essays pretty much. So please don't use that. What is the point of outside evidence? You're trying to show that you're not relying on the documents. So basically it's showing that you have enough knowledge to say, here are some other reasons that caused America's foreign policy decisions or different things. Because what a lot of people do is all they do is read the documents, rephrase them, and put it into their essay. They're trying to see, do you have enough knowledge to go outside the documents, or do you only know how to read a document and say what it says? They really want to go in depth. So outside evidence, in my opinion, is actually the best indicator of if a student actually knows the topic. Because if not, you're just relying on the documents. And back in my day, we were not, with outside evidence and things like that, it was worth almost 50% of my essay scores was outside evidence. You could barely use the documents whatsoever. So outside evidence, in my opinion, is the best indicator of what's going on. Does that make sense, Jackson? Also, make sure your outside evidence connects to the topic. We had a whole bunch of people that talked about women in the 1950s. And they just said, one example of something that happened is also women being confined to the cult of domesticity in the 1950s. Or we had a bunch of people go into African-American civil rights. None of that has to do with political ideologies causing foreign affairs. So please make sure that it actually relates to the topic. And then if you think outside evidence is in the documents or is too similar, just don't do it. So for example, let's say that you're talking about Korean War, Doc 2, and you decide to go into more about Korea. It's really similar to the document. So please push outside of that. We did have a lot of people do the Geneva Accords, and that did work. But what did not work was a lot of people had highlighted, which again, you don't have to highlight, but a lot of people had highlighted just random stuff about the Korean War, which is not actually having to do with that. And then complexity argument, about half did an attempt, which is fine. I would abandon it anyways. That's really why most people didn't get the point. You didn't try. Make sure you have 2 paragraphs of effects. I've already had people say, but I put a paragraph in. Why can't I get that? It's because you have to have 2 substantial. Remember, unicorn point less than 1% of students get. So you have to really show you know your topic to be able to get that point. Also, we had some people that put way too many documents. Again, complexity is the thing that you want to cut out if you don't have time. So if you're relying on it to talk about your documents, be very cautious of that. Almost everything should be in your first category, not your second. Okay? Does anybody have any general questions about the DBQ, outside evidence, HIP analysis, anything like that before we talk about next week? Okay, so let me talk about next week. And don't freak out when I show you this first slide. Okay, great. So there will be no lecture or class Monday or Tuesday. Instead, you'll be doing 2 things. The first, you'll be prepping your binders, getting your digital copy, whatever you want as your notes pages. That is basically what your goal is. Should be like 30 minutes to an hour. It depends on how long. If you're printing things, It'll take longer. I'll send out another sign up if you would like copies. Again, I have to see how many people actually turn their stuff in on time and how many gaps that we have. And then I'll send out an announcement if you want me to get you something printed and different things. You will have access to everybody's items. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a Google Drive that's going to have everything in there. Then from there, I will be creating a PDF and a Google Doc that I will send out to you that has access to everybody's stuff. And then additionally, we will also be able to have it that you can print out and stuff like that. The one thing I would mention is they did say that they will flag you if you're on a shared document. So you will have to make a copy of anything I send to you, or else they will flag it as potential plagiarism. Well, I will give you all the links of what to be able to put in there. I will make everything for you. That's my Sunday. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what did you say to put? Because A through Z, because I want you to imagine this, is that if you have all those documents in your binder and you're looking for women in the Revolutionary War, if you have a W tab, you pull it and you're immediately there. It's part of the reason why I personally don't prefer an online notes page. And the reason why is because if you Control F it and you're searching through that, the issue that I have with Control F is think of how many times you're going to see women. And that's what I'm concerned about, as well as slow bandwidth speed. I'm probably going to organize them alphabetically, and then I'm probably going to do one that's organized by time period that you could easily search. I'll probably do a couple of different versions to allow you the most opportunities to be able to understand what's going on. Okay, now here's the second thing, and this is very important because this is what's going to help a lot of our timing issues. I'm going to assign you 2 timed DBQs next week. So basically, in theory, that's 50 minutes plus 50 minutes of work, okay? Now, before you freak out, first, these are your final assignments for the whole school year. Sad face. And it's not sad face for assignments. It's really sad face because it means that we're basically almost done. We only have 3 weeks left of school from today. I will not tell you what period they are, but they would all be similar to what you would see on the AP exam, so periods 3 through 7. They are going to be random, just like what the AP exam is going to look like, okay? Now, before you freak out, let me explain. So your 2 practice DBQs are going to be due next Thursday, so you'll have 4 days to be able to do them. I'm not going to start them until I get you guys your notes sheets. And the reason why is because I want you to practice searching for things. I want you to practice finding things. Because if you don't, then what happens on the AP exam when you spend 30 minutes looking through your binder instead of writing your essay? Or what if you realize, man, I can't do this digitally, I have to get it printed. So this is to practice all those different things. It's going to be the same exact timing. So it'll be 50-minute timer on Canvas, 5 minutes will be an upload time, and basically I will have 2 options. You either A, put it in as a copy and paste, or B, you upload the file. It's whatever you want to do, okay? Practice as if this were the AP exam. Use dueling screens. Bye, Divya. Use different tabs. Use your binder, whatever it could possibly be. Practice timing, because I really think the more you practice, the better your timing will get down. Remember the first LEQ we did, how most of you only did half of it, and then the second, everybody finished mostly? That's what we're practicing here. It's just timing, timing, timing. And then the plagiarism checker will be on as well. Now, here's why you might want to care about this. Your first DBQ is graded on participation. If I can tell you truly gave effort, you get full credit, 100%. I don't care if you got a 5, I don't care if you got a 10. This is practice for you. Your main goals of this first DBQ is to practice your timing, ask me how to fix problems, such as, Miss Ray, I am still running out of time. Miss Ray, I am not finding the information I need out of my binder quick enough. Miss Ray, I'm using too much time on my pre-write. Ask me questions. That is what this is for. It is not to get a 9 and get a perfect score, or I don't want to get an A. I really don't care about grades starting this week on. I care about you prepping for the AP exam. So while you get grades for doing it, all I care about is you tried and gave effort. So for example, if you did the DBQ and it's a subject you have no idea about, then it's a subject you have no idea about. And that's just the way it falls, okay? The second one is there has been now an official 2020 practice DBQ released. It is an official 5-document rephrased to the correct format, and that is going to be your official one that I'm going to score on a score of 1 to 10. So you have a guarantee of an 80% on this one if you tried. So if you send me a single sentence, no, I'm not going to grade that. If you only do the essay in 10 minutes, no, I'm not going to grade that. I should be seeing actual effort being given, okay? Yes, you will want to have your binders completed before the 2 practices because I want you to practice flipping through. That's why I'm not going to release this until I send those to you, which will hopefully be Sunday night. My biggest fear is we're going to have major gaps from students that are not turning stuff in. That's my biggest fear. So again, it'll probably go live on Monday, the 2 DBQs, but I will have at that point already sent you all the other information that you would need to know before that, because I want you to practice going through things, if that makes sense. Okay? Now, again, there really is no point in cheating. I really don't care about what your grade is. I care that you got the practice. I don't care if it's an awesome grade versus a good grade. I just want you to prep the AP exam. So there's really no point in saying, hey, give me your stuff. I really just don't care. I care about you prepping for the AP exam, not what kind of a grade you get. Because again, I think a 4 is going to be a pass. So it depends. Now, one quick thing, why is it better to put A through Z instead of organizing by periods? That is just for me. I think if you organize by periods personally, what if, because think about, for example, period 7, imperialism, and to go all the way through World War II, that's a huge chunk of stuff. And my fear is you're going to be sitting there flipping through all the pages. So an A through Z is a quick tab that you know it's alphabetical versus, oh shoot, period 4, why am I reading about Jackson when I'm supposed to be reading about westward migration? So that's just in my head. But again, you guys can do whatever the heck you want. I don't really care. If we go to Google something to know, not copy, is that cheating? No, because that's allowed on the AP exam. What I'm talking about when I say cheating, so you can do everything that the AP exam will allow you to do. If you want to Google, if you want to go read Wikipedia, I don't really care. But notice on the timing issue that that's more likely. They did specifically say that you could also Google words that you don't know. So if you don't know how to Google and get a quick definition, if you want to Google, that's fine because that's allowed on the AP exam. But what I don't want, and what I can tell immediately, is when people reword what they found on Google, it flags it as plagiarism. But looking up, for example, Marshall Plan and being like, oh, I know what that is, and then going and writing it on your own, that's completely allowed. Okay? Now, really quickly, this is very, very important. This prompt is similar in style, not in topic, to the official 2020 DBQ sample. A couple of things I want you to notice. One, this is a horribly written prompt. And here's the reason why. Notice relative importance is back. So for all of these who do the imperialism, relative importance is back. Relative importance of the causes of political change. Do you guys notice the problem here? Importance of the causes of political change. CCOT, causation, that's the problem. This is a causation essay. It is causes, and then think of political change as in any other term. So this is a cause-effect essay, but then your topic is political change. Does that make sense? So in this one, evaluate the relative importance of the causes of political change from 75 to 1800. So I could, for example, say the most important cause of political change in the United States was a need for a more stable government. And then I go into the switch from Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. Does that make sense? So I'm giving you a hint right now. It's a causation essay, but it will say some sort of a change here, but just think of that as a term, not as a CCOT essay. Does that make sense? So again, causes of just a term, political change. I think it's a horribly, horribly worded one, but I'm wondering if that's what it's going to be this year. Is some sort of a causation essay on changes in America. And I know, Alan, I know, because that's what all the teachers are saying. In fact, the head reader at the AP College Board is in my Facebook group. He made a practice DBQ so that his students have samples, and he said it was one of the hardest DBQs that he's done. And it had nothing to do with the topic of the essay. It had nothing to do with the documents. It has to do with the confusing thing of this essay prompt. So as long as you do first, second, and third cause, the most important cause, the least important cause, and then you think of political change as its own topic, you should be okay. And again, a lot of teachers said the documents are fine, the topic of the essay are fine, it's just the wording of this prompt is horrible, which is why we're going to practice this next week so that you can be able to know what it would look like on the AP exam. Did I explain this well enough? So again, it's causes, causation essay, cause and effect, and then political change is a topic. Anybody have any questions? I don't think I did that. What would causes be of this? This would be a relatively easy essay. So the causes of political change from 75 to 1800s, American Revolution, Declaration of Independence, creation of the Articles of Confederation, creation of the Constitution, creation of political parties, foreign affairs, lots of things. Googling. If we don't know a doc's meaning, could we Google it in the Library of Congress? I would not. You're going to get way too confused. Again, your goal is to ID the document, not to actually, again, at this point, if you don't know the document, you just do your best to rephrase it and BS it. I would definitely not do Library of Congress. Or reverse Google image search or anything like that, because I think reverse Google image will not work because you can block that on the system, and I think that's what they'll do. And I think you're just going to spend way too much time digging. Okay. Can you do my AP test? No, because I've already taken the AP test, and I'm pretty sure it would flag me because I'm both the AP teacher and I've already taken it once. I did hear that there's a company that you can pay $2,000 to, and they will take your AP exam, and you'll probably have your AP scores canceled, and they've already filed a lawsuit against that company. So pretty sure that I wouldn't do it. So that's just me. By the way, I just want to emphasize again, social media. Stay off social media. Stay off your phone. Anything like that. They are going to, I don't know if you guys watched my lecture last class, but they are going to plant fake information online. They said through Reddit, through Twitter, through Facebook, which you guys say that's for old people, so I don't know why they're doing it on Facebook. They're going to put fake info on Instagram, and then they're going to put fake info. They're going to, I've heard allegedly, that they are going to pay for a sponsored page so that if you Google something about the topic, it will come up at the top and possibly give you false information. If you deleted Reddit and TikTok, I don't know how you can survive without TikTok though, because I've become somewhat obsessed with it the last couple of days. It's my last thing I do before bed. But yeah, Reddit, I would stay off of Reddit. I would not go anywhere near it. Oh, and by the way, they did say this year that because of the openness, it appears that you can talk about the exam as soon as the exam is over. I am not positive, but it appears that way. You can also, a lot of teachers, 40% of or 40% of all AP teachers said they're going to use this year's essay as part of your final grade in a class. And a lot of teachers are saying that they want you to download and submit to them your essays immediately when the exam is over. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. It depends on the teacher. I don't think they're doing everything to make you fail. I think they're concerned. Here's what I think, okay? Out of the 51-page document that they sent you guys all the other day, 5 of those pages were quotes from college admissions offices saying that they would accept the AP exam. Additionally, they posted a video the other day of about 40 colleges saying, AP is awesome, the exam is great, we're so excited for this. My opinion is, they announced that they were doing this new format. IB then announced that they were canceling all exams, and almost all college entrance exams similar to AP, IB stuff has been canceled except for AP. So in my opinion, they're getting a whole bunch of flack for doing these AP exams the way that they are. I think that the new format was a horrible idea. I think we should have somehow done a paper exam or something like that. I don't know. How it would have worked. I would have even preferred to take the exam. Think about it. Right now, they're allowing 20 people in a room at a time. I would have preferred to be able to do social distancing and having 5 kids in a classroom across Skyline and done a paper exam. I think they're getting so much hate that they are making it very stressful, in my opinion. That's my opinion, okay? But what I can tell you is they have also said that it might even be easier to get a passing grade this year compared to normal. And Tracy, you are correct. A lot of students did say that they would have preferred to not, but 80% of students responded to the survey that they sent out and said they would prefer to have AP exams rather than be canceled. And for the record, with Tracy's suggestion, it's part of the reason why a lot of schools are doing concurrent credit next year, because in concurrent credit, your grade in college is the grade you got in the class. Now those classes are usually much harder than an AP class, but because I did concurrent, I preferred AP over concurrent enrollment, but that's just me, because I got B's in my concurrent enrollment, so it brought my GPA down. So to explain the differences between concurrent and not, in concurrent, your teacher is enrolled through the university. So they have to act just like a college class. So they give them the syllabus and say, this is what you're teaching, and you have to fulfill A, B, C, and D for homework. And so what happens is for a lot of those, it's much different. So like in our class, how we can say, all right, we're going to do these review assignments or whatever, that's not the option because you have to follow what the college says. But I don't know. I think eventually Skyline will go concurrent, but I'm not sure. Okay. But in my opinion, I think that once you take the first exam, you're going to be much less stressed. Again, we can't do anything about this situation. We can't convince College Board to change their minds. We can't all of a sudden learn all of American history. We can only do as much as you can do. And here's what I'll tell you. This is from Miss Ray's experience. Okay. So when I took the AP US exam, they said, we promise you it'll be over something you know. So I went into the exam feeling super confident. And then I took the exam, and my DBQ was on Puritan America, which at my school in Idaho, we did periods 1 and 2 as summer homework assignments, and period 3. I think we did all the way to 1800 as homework over the summer. And I mean, you guys know if you do summer assignments, which aren't legal in Utah anymore, but you don't do much over the summer. And I did all my work 3 days before school let out, or school came back to school. So when I took the AP exam, I left that exam, and this was before Twitter and Reddit, before we could like collaborate more. I totally felt like I was going to fail. And I was like, there's no way. Nobody knew this exam question. Like, I had no idea what half the documents were talking about. I BS'd my way through that exam, and I got a 5. So there's definitely possibilities that you can be able to do this great. Again, I've had kids that have gotten 1s and 2s on every essay, and then magically have 5s. Did my teacher not have enough to 10 to teach that? So this is a controversy. So you guys know how we've, like, some of our topics we've talked about in a very short amount of time, like one day. So a lot of teachers choose to do summer assignments instead. So they'll do the periods 1 and 2 over the summer. And then that gives them an extra 2 to 3 weeks of instruction, so you can lengthen out time or have more review time. It's extremely popular in almost every single state. And I don't know if you guys remember taking AP Human, but before last year, AP Human also had a summer assignment. But what changed is here in Utah, it is now illegal to do summer assignments. They can say, we can suggest it, but they cannot require it. And that was a change that has just barely come in. So most schools, when I'm all over the place on Facebook, all the time they're saying, what are you doing for your summer assignment? How are you teaching periods 1 and 2 of the summer? It's actually extremely rare to not have a summer assignment, but they are illegal here in Utah. And I support that because I was just like you guys not that long ago. And I know how hard I worked on my summer assignments. And that was a total of maybe 2% of my effort level. So they can suggest it though. So they can say that this is a recommended, but they cannot require it for a grade. Or I know with AP Human, with the MAP test, they still do the MAP test, but I think that they give it to you at the start of the summer, and then they give the MAP test to you like 2 days into school. So you either cram 2 days before or you do it over the summer. That's one way that you can adjust that. But anyways, and also again, imagine if your DBQ that was worth like 30% of your grade was based on something that you learned for less than a day. So that was kind of a little bit of a stressful too. But anyways, so really we can't control it. Also, what if you are the class that a couple years ago at Skyline got the populism DBQ, where the average DBQ score out of 7 was a 1.2? You just can't control anything. And so at this point, you just either BS it or you know it and you do a great job, and it doesn't matter either way. You're going to do the best that you can. And in my opinion, you're going to probably do the same that you've done all year. So if you feel like you've been doing good all year, then great. If you feel like you've been average, you'll probably be average on the exam, which is a good thing. If you're consistently getting the same problems wrong, that's so when we need to be concerned. Again, I've had kids that have had 55% and failed my class every quarter, and they've gotten 4s. So you just never know what it could be every year. Although I would not suggest that method. That's a very, very bad method. Very stressful method. For me too. And if anybody, if you think you're stressed, I'm usually 9 times more stressed. I've had so many nightmares every night about APUSH, and you guys are very mean to me in my nightmares, and I don't appreciate that because I wake up super stressed, and then I come here, and you guys are much nicer here. Especially some of you are very mean to me in my dreams. I don't know why certain ones of you are very mean, but for some reason, my subconscious is like thinking you guys are mean to me. I'm not going to tell you who it is. But there are about 5 of you that are mean to me every single night in my dreams, and I wake up super stressed out, and then you send me a really nice text on Remind the next day, and I'm like, okay, see, they like me, and then it's all okay. So anyways, I think that's all I have. Let me see. Review sessions, we're only doing Wednesday and Friday of next week at 12 p.m. instead of 1:15. This is partially due to AP exam schedules and things like that. They won't be required. They will just be highly suggested. And then the week of the AP exam, who the heck knows? It's going to be based on your guys' schedule. We will have a heart-to-heart. So next Friday's review session is always a heart-to-heart where we just come together and we let out all of our stresses. And then I give you a pep talk, and then you feel very excited and ready to go. And then that usually goes away about 30 minutes after we talk, but then it comes back the next week. But normally I redo my pep talk the Thursday, and then you're all excited and you feel pumped up, and then we all do a great job. And then we all laugh about it and cry about it the full weekend. It'll be a good time. But the most important thing is, again, you can't control anything you can't control. So just do your best. We'll be fine. We're great. We're going to be doing great. And if, worst comes to worst, this is something that you guys could talk about for years and years and years. When your kid is complaining about AP, you could be like, you know what? Back in my day, we had to take them online. And they'll probably be taking them online and like their hoverboards or something like that. But you'll be able to say all the back in my days, and it'll be a good time. So anyways, well, that's all I've got for you guys.